Warning Order, or WARNO if you're normal, is a real-time strategy game set in a world where the Cold War went hot. But it also didn't go so hot either, so now we have a massive slugfest in Europe. Unlike other RTS games, this is a game where you have to leverage your ISR, indirect fire assets, maneuvers, and a whole bunch of other buzzwords to win against your opponents. Or just heli rush them with a swarm of Mi-24s if you feel particularly mischievous. Its most innovative feature is the incorporation of large arguments on the game's various forms about the performance of units into the overarching gameplay, which only a handful of other games have managed to accomplish, and something that I really do not see the appeal of unless your game's name has the letters C and M next to each other somewhere in the abbreviation, but I digress. Okay, that was just for a bit. I'm not excusing some of the highly questionable things that Eugen has done in the past, although it looks like they've been trying to claw back their reputation. But this video isn't about vanilla WARNO, it's about a specific mod for it which changes the game completely. It's a mod with large battles, cool explosions, new and insane game mechanics, and the horrors of 21st century network-centric warfare. Despite John Eugene's best attempts at making the lives of these modders a complete hell, they have created possibly the most expansive, detailed, and simultaneously underrated mod on the WARNO Steam Workshop. And today we'll be taking a look at what it has to offer. This is the second Chinese thing with Lightracer in the title that left me slightly empty after learning about its lore. Yes, this mod comes with lore. WARNO has mods set in the modern times. It has mods set a long time ago in a galaxy far away. It's even got mods set in the 1700s, just not on Earth. This is a mod set in 2068. For a mod taking place in 2068, there is little other material than a slugfest between the USA and PRC, with potentially the Russians spectating on the side because they have not been doing too well recently, courtesy of a mysterious rise in military smoking accidents. So how will the members of the ZIXU modding team handle this chicken power nuclear landmine of an issue? That's right, by putting the US and the PRC on the same team and making the Russians, in the form of the new Soviet Union, the enemy, along with the French. Sometime in the year 2030, some sort of calamity occurred. Wars were fought, and after the calamity, a federation in the Pacific formed that eventually expanded to encompass most of Europe minus France. The Pan-Oceanic Defense Convention opposed a faction led by a re-emergent Soviet Union. While the quality of life in the Pan-Oceanic countries has been declining, the Neo-Soviets have created some sort of prosperous society, which may or may not be false, I'm not too sure. I did ask my friend who lives there to tell me, and he said, and I quote, "Can't complain about it, so I guess it must be rather double plus good there." That is about as far as I dug into the lore because I can't read Chinese, and Baidu is famously not a good translator. There is also some stuff about the US building a replica sun over the Great Lakes, some mentions of the SHD from Tom Clancy's The Division, and presumably the Chinese have killed the weather and now have the resources to activate a beacon by this point. Well, now you might be saying, whoa, hey Paxel, weren't you born in China? Just go read the original lore and also get on with explaining the mod. Okay, three things, right? You don't understand how devastating getting an iPad set to English at the age of 8 was to my Chinese skills. Yes, many have told me that I bring shame to my family, but whatever. Second of all, how are you living in my walls? And I will be hunting you down. And third, false prosperity takes you to the battlefields of 2068. You have recurring characters like Grandpa Buff, the M1, and the F-16 with only 2 cluster bombs that everyone hates, but they're also joined by new equipment like railgun tanks with active camo, B-21s shooting off nukes, the XO-2S Strike Wyvern, and the VL-49 Tarantula. This is a battlefield where everything is data linked, a place where you are always one spot and roughly 10 seconds away from a striker with some VLS cell slapped onto it, launching the equivalent of a 250 kilogram bomb on your immediate location that also tracks you while you move. In terms of overall stats and mechanics, false prosperity is on another level compared to vanilla WARNO. Just as an example, tanks sit around either very good or exceptional optics. Aiming time is less than a second. In the case of the M10A3 HABV, someone better call Spookston because I'm pretty sure General Dynamics Land System trapped the ghost of Eugene Stoner and forced him to make a 120mm Ares gun because that thing has a fire rate of 45 RPM. The mod also introduces an incredible amount of new mechanics. We have 2 or 3 different generations of thermals, 3 generations of stealth fighter traits, support traits for aircraft and tanks, indirect fire traits that allow missiles to be shot behind cover. Yes, the British actually get a lore accurate swing fire, but it's an Ajax. Electronic warfare in the accuracy debuff, suppression, and the you can't see me flavors. APS, laser dazzlers for aircraft, directed energy weapons, guided artillery shells, LOSATs, J-stars, AWACS, in-depth air defense mechanics, holographic decoys, anti-air hypersonic railgun, optical camo, drone traits for air and land units. There's just so much to unpack here. So we'll end this section by by saying that the battlefield of 2070 is very transparent, and you probably need to lock in combined arms harder than vanilla WARNO, but also there are more and fancier ways to blow your enemies up. You can let loose these new horrors of war on the Neo-Soviet, French, or even Allied forces, or you could choose like, what, the fourth option I think, if you don't feel like using 2000% of your brain power to play this mod, which is to let them loose against some of the vanilla decks the devs have graciously left in the game. You are Private Conscriptovich. Sergeant Bashevsky has given you the important task of pushing the Americans back, but before your advance even starts, your command tank gets slimed out by a fire and forget missile launched 3 kilometers away. You call for some air support and watch as the Su-27 flying overhead is mogged by an evil gang of 3 F-22s. The cub in the back manages to tap one, slightly damaging it, only for all 3 to zoom climb and disappear off into space. The buck then gets immediately pasted by a prism strike. You turn your attention to the sky again, and there is what appears to be a Boeing 707 there. Hey, you think, look, it's a civilian airliner. Maybe if I can report this spot, my army can continue the great legacy of the Su-15. And then the mini nukes start landing around you because that was a J-Stars and very much not a civilian airliner, and now the entire US Army knows your exact location. Not only is the technology of 2068 superior to vanilla, you also get more units for larger meat grinder battles. Like when the mod says 1st Mechanized Division, 1st ABCT, they weren't joking, you do actually get the whole armor brigade to play with. There are more units per card and it's cheaper to activate each card. Each faction has its own identity with very distinct equipment. Push an American position and be prepared to receive a large quantity of railgun rounds and data-linked ATGMs your way. Push to Chinese and you lose the railguns, take double the ATGM, and gain some artillery as a bonus. Push the Brits and, well, there's no pushing because by the time you reach your starting line, half your forces are burning thanks to a Chevalier Mark IV tank from 3.5 kilometers away. As for the Soviets, they're a little bit incomplete right now, but they'll be sure to push you first with these in very large quantities. The French, Europeans, and the rest of the Soviets and the Antarcticans are still unimplemented, but are planned, with the Antarcticans being a little bit of a wild card. But if the crappy young adult dystopian novels I read as a child have taught me anything, they either have a few Trisolarian droplets hidden in a hangar somewhere under McMurdo Station, or are living in abject poverty with nothing in between. The developers appear to subscribe to the concept of vibe balancing, because the balance is all over the place with basically no standards for health, damage, range, spotting, and everything else other than it's the future and the future is lethal. Now you might be going, well, Pack, so it's a mod made by the Chinese. The PLA will probably be mega buff to CGTN set at 1, so it must be true levels. To which I respond with, that may be true, I don't know, but I would like to point out that the strongest deck in the game is a Stryker Brigade, and the possession of 1st Armored Division 3rd SPCT is a very special vehicle called the Fog Machine. What it does is it imbues surrounding units with anti-mimetic properties, making them invisible. The only downside is that it cannot apply this effect to itself, so it's balanced. Therefore, you need to be careful when using it to push enemy. Oh my god, that works? Yeah, so as it turns out, you can just get 2 of them, and then some Stryker Dragoons, some AA, and just push into the enemy spawn and spawn camp them the entire match. Excluding the fog machines, every Stryker has the option of mounting some data link missile launchers that shoot through cover. Put them in a city, and they can become basically unbearable. If this sounds a little bit insane, just know that this mod is mostly intended for single player, which is actually what the vast majority of WARNO players play, but if you want to bring out the fine china, literally in this case, to kill time with some friends, this mod also works in multiplayer, albeit that it can be a little bit laggy due to all the new things added. There used to be more content, and then sometime between the mod's release and the South Ag expansion, Eugen broke the mod somehow, and the devs basically had to remake the entire mod. Something I look for when I play mods with their own story is flavor. That's a pretty hard concept to explain, but it's basically like how immersed you are while playing. In terms of flavor, this mod is delicious. The models are surprisingly well done, which appears to be a side effect of this mod being almost 9 gigabytes. The devs have also done a fairly good job of creating a believable but more importantly cool unit lineup for all of the nations involved, with the proper designations and everything for all the weapons. I swear I've lost like 10 hours looking at everything in the armory and just geeking out. Like seriously, how can you not look at LOSAT missiles, high energy lasers, ETC and railguns and just not go like yeah. The devs are also pretty on the ball with their reference game, and all of this is wrapped up in a solid OST that I've used a bunch of times in the past. I don't really have great taste in music, but I will say this is pretty close to the best of Broken Arrow and certainly better than Vanilla WARNO, which has like, what, maybe 2 memorable tracks? Like we have Sinful, and then we have the one that has like Lobster in the lyrics a bunch of times. If any of this sounds remotely interesting, give this mod a try. It doesn't quite play like WARNO, but hey, it's a mod and it should have the right to change a few things from the base game. If you don't feel like partaking in the customary 20 minutes of artillery dueling at the start of each match, or dealing with the infamous Chinese attack helo swarm, you can of course just edit the opponent decks to not have any of those things. Ultimately, I don't have enough playtime or experience in WARNO, unlike that one guy who generously thanks his generous channel members for generously joining the channel, to judge whether this mod is fair or balanced. But I will say it is like a breath of fresh air after a 16-hour shift at the local sweatshop. It's finally an interesting mod that isn't just a modern day reskin of WARNO or the 643rd realism mod. It's basically a new game inside of WARNO, and for the low price of free, they do have a Patreon, you can support them. That's more than I was expecting, and of course, most importantly, it's fun. So anyways, this is the part where I talk about the deal breaker for some when it comes to this mod. This mod takes place in the GFL universe. GFL is a gacha game. Think of it basically as a digital casino for PNG files. A light reading of its wiki and a consultation with a friend who actually plays GFL, because I sure as hell won't, leads me to believe that this mod takes place in an alternate timeline that diverged from GFL's timeline somewhere around 2067. While the devs have been pretty low-key about it on their Steam Workshop page, they do plan on adding the units from that game into the mod, right after they add basically everything else. So that's like what decks for 4 nations, the weird heavy tank that the US is also missing, how light infantry will do in a world where you are always 5 seconds away from high explosive being dropped on your immediate location, I do not know, but adding them will certainly turn some people away, and if you are one of those people, I understand. But hey, at least they're adding the ODSTs immediately afterwards with orbitally dropped tanks. Oh my god, hold on, is that a freaking SBY reference? Anyways, thanks for watching. I originally intended to make a video covering a bunch of WARNO mods, which I thought would be chill since I wanted to make a chill video before spring break ends, but as soon as I began writing the script, I realized covering this mod, which is something that I really wanted to do, would add way too long to the video runtime, which YouTube really does not like, so I made it its own video. And to be honest, some of the other stuff I wanted to cover, like Galactic Divide, you know, people already know about it, and the more niche stuff like CERM, Rebs, Frago, you know, I can't get enough runtime out of it to make it like a full 12-minute-ish video. It is what it is. Look at the rest of the workshop eventually. Anyways, if you like this video, consider dropping a like, a subscribe, turn on the bell for future videos. Next up will probably be a video about Wings of Glory, unless something interesting happens. Please, Nebulous Fleet Command, save me from having to cover Roblox, AirRB, pretty please.